The very general thing that you can expect is they will be asking you general questions upon DevOps. Okay, they will be they will be interested in to know whether you are actually aware of what DevOps is before they go into any further. So why has DevOps become so famous? Okay, because you see, now I'll just give you a quick hint upon it. Okay, it's because this is a more elaborative answer than just a quick answer as such. But you see, while you have the models like waterfall, you have the models like agile, why DevOps is becoming so popular nowadays, and the organizations are thriving for, they are going for it. Okay, now if we talk about it, you see here what you get in DevOps, you get that barrier overcome in DevOps, which was not there, or which that barrier was existing for generations in the other models which were earlier there. Okay, as well, DevOps, you see, it talks about a continuous sort of integration, continuous sort of testing, continuous sort of delivery. Okay, so this makes it a bit different than the other existing platforms those were out there, wherein DevOps focuses more on the operational and business readiness, let us say, and agile platforms, they focus on more of like functional and non-functional readiness. Okay, you can check the very, I mean, if you are not aware of it, the team, just be sort of aware the differences between waterfall and your agile and your DevOps. Okay, very sort of distinct ones you will see. For example, waterfall will have everything going one after the other. You have to sort of figure out the things beforehand only. Agile, you have the small viable product, as we call it, with increments, with the incremental upgrades, periodical updates. And here you have a continuous integration and continuous delivery mode of with Dev and Ops working hand in hand. Okay, so just be aware of this fact. Why at all this has become so famous, because they might ask you upon comparing between one or the two existing technologies. Okay, existing sort of ways of going for it. Specifically, just to be aware of, like I mentioned, waterfall versus agile versus DevOps. How do you ensure security and DevOps environment? Okay, so here is the thing. When we are talking about DevOps, okay, specifically we are talking about the development and the operations job, right? Or the operations team working hand in hand. I'll just give you a quick understanding about it. Is while DevOps has made our life, or it has made the deliveries more faster, it has made the deployments way faster. But what is lacking is the validation of the process. And that is where the security gets in. And that is the reason why, just remember, you can talk a bit about the DevSecOps. DevSecOps nowadays is quite popular. DevSec stands for security, and Ops is again operations. So DevSecOps, just be aware, this is a thriving kind of domain right now, wherein not only you are working on Dev and Ops, but you are also incorporating security at every aspect from within. How do you ensure collaboration between developers and operations team? Okay, now as a part of which you can explore a bit upon what was already happening. I mean, in the previous earlier models, how there was a gap between the two, and how the reorg, how the reform of the teams, you can bring this collaboration between Dev and Ops. Okay, in AWS we call it two pizza model, or two pizza teams, wherein we bring on the developers and operations together. So I mean, just be aware, okay, team, this is just one of the way I told you. Okay, but we just explore a bit on this, that how come you can bring these two together, because ultimately you are saying Dev plus Ops, right? Developers and operations working together, but how? That is where you'll just have to explain a bit upon. Is, for example, I just gave you one example, is from within AWS we call it two pizza teams. We onboard the developers and operations together to work as a team, which is a very popular method, okay, team, very common method to to work in. Even some of the organizations opt to go with DevOps engineer, okay, which will be a bridge between dev and the ops. So different methods are there, but you see, making them work together is something that that has seemed to be, or that has kind of turned out to be much more efficient than the other ways. Then what is continuous integration? Continuous integration is where your developer is pushing the code for build and test, or your build mode of test will respond back immediately with if there are any problems in the code. So this is a loop that we call to be a continuous integration, wherein a continuous build and test and code being pushed is happening unless and until you get the highest quality code at the end. Okay, yes, you were right, told it is a process fully automated. That's why it is a continuous integration. And this is the reason why you have happy developers, because as soon as they push the code, they get to know the feedback immediately. That is why continuous integration is really, really significant or important in the process of DevOps, or in the domain of DevOps. Okay, just be aware of this, because remember, this question will be really, really likely in order to go for any DevOps interview. Okay, please be aware. Please try to tell me what is the difference between continuous delivery versus continuous deployment. This is a very, very, very likely question that you should be aware of. What do you see the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment? Remember, okay, this is a really, really important question from the interview point of view. Continuous delivery is where you have a manual approval, okay, in place. For example, okay, if your code is going into the final production, okay, just before that, you may want a manual approval to check whether the code is good enough to go into production. That is where continuous delivery is there. Whereas continuous deployment, on the other hand, is where the entire process end to end, from the code to build to test to provision to deploy to monitor, everything is fully automated, no manual intervention. So the difference is from the manual intervention perspective. If there is a manual intervention, it is referred to as continuous delivery process. If it is not, if it is fully automated, think about continuous deployment. Just be aware, okay? This is a question that will be asked, okay? And what is the infrastructure as a code? Again, this is a very foundational principle of DevOps. So this will be asked. So please be aware of this. Infrastructure as a code is where you create your infrastructure with code. Okay. Now, everything about that infrastructure further on, it will be done through the code. So if you have any update to be done, it is through the code. If you have any addition, deletion, modification to be done, it will be through the code. The entire management, it will be through the code. And as well, the deletion of that ultimately will be through a mechanism of the code itself. So no manual way is there. So infrastructure as a code, remember, it is the way of automating the infrastructure creation. Remember this sentence. It is the way of automating the infrastructure creation through code. Okay, so the benefit of this, if they ask you, please be aware, it makes sure that the code or the infrastructure is versioned, and you can create or duplicate your infrastructure as many times and whenever possible, wherever required. Okay, so please be aware. Okay, this is an important concept. And yes, there are various tools. And what is DevOps ultimately? So that we have discussed already. Okay, cultural philosophies, tools and best practices. These three things, when they combine dev and ops, developers and operations, okay, that is where this DevOps come into picture, wherein you are removing the barriers from within dev and the ops through this. Okay, great. I mean, this is important. Remember, this is where it will all start. Okay, they will make sure, the interviewer will make sure that you know the basics of DevOps with this. As well, make sure a couple of things I'll suggest you. Please be aware the requirement of automation from within DevOps. Why at all automation is required with manual interventions. you bring in inefficiencies. Okay, so better to have as automated as possible. Now a Git. Okay, so Git you see important because even though other repositories are out there, still Git is a very popular one, and as well Git is on top of most of the repositories. It is in fact the base of most of the repositories, I would say. For example, even if you go with AWS services like code commit as well, you'll see Git underneath. And GitHub, GitLab, isn't it? They are very, very popular as the repositories out there. So from the Git perspective, let's just discuss what it is. What is commit in a Git? What do you think, team? What do you think about this? What do you think is a commit in a Git? So try to understand, commit in a Git, you can think of it like you are pushing the code or you are modifying the code. Okay, you are altering the code. You are even pushing the code as well will be considered as a commit. Okay, so ultimately, yes, in very simple words, it can be saving a code into the Git repository. Okay, or committing a change, committing a code. It is what we term to it as, right? Okay, so just be aware of the further questions that they may come up. For example, what is branch in Git? What do you think, team? Why branch is required? What is branch in Git? These repositories, they allow for collaboration. Okay, multiple developers can work on the same repository. Now, having said that, I would not like to modify my master code, right? I don't want my production code to be modified. So what we do is we give out a same copy of the code to every developer, and that is what we refer to as a branch. Okay, branch is just giving out same copy of the code to the corresponding developer. So it will be a branch, individual branch for a developer or for a particular feature. Okay, and it is important because you don't want anyone to hamper your final or your production code. Okay, I hope it is clear. You can explore on this if you're not aware. What is merge conflict in Git? How do you resolve it? So just I'll give you a quick idea. Merge conflict team is where you have two files with the same name, where developer 1 is trying to merge a file with the same name that as that of developer 2, but the content is different for each file. Like I was saying, you have a file created by developer 1 with a name which is exactly same as that of developer 2. So when the file is being merged into the master code, now I hope you know the concept of merging. Okay, and why it is being done? If the content of the two files are different with the same name, okay, this is where conflict comes in. And how to resolve it? You have to resolve it manually. Okay, there are a couple of ways how you can resolve it. So with the resolution is always manual. You can either delete that file from one of the developer, or you can modify the name of the file at least. Okay, modify the name of the file at least, or you can opt to delete that file altogether in order to do it. What is a pull request? How does it work in Git? So pull request is exactly that, wherein when you create a branch, isn't it? So when that branch is ready to be merged into master code, because ultimately the branch is created only for temporary modifications or temporary checking or testing. But when everything is done, when that modification is done, you may want to merge that code into the master. That is where pull request is there. Pull request, please be aware, okay team? This question will be very important. Pull request allows you to merge your code into master from that particular branch. What is Git repository? How do you create one? Very simple. You can go and create a repository on the GitHub if you want, the console way. You can initialize the repository on your local machine as well. Okay, with Git init. So both ways are possible. You can initialize that. You can go about creating one repository onto GitHub as well, and you can start working with it. What is Git clone? How do you use it? Now, very simply, I'm sure you're aware of it. It allows you to clone your remote repository into your local repository. So let us say you have a GitHub repository, right, on GitHub. Okay. With that, if you want to copy or if you want to sort of clone it, clone is the best word in fact. You want to clone it, exactly that repository into your local machine to be able to work on. Okay, you use that git clone. Okay, now there is further process involved. You see, we have git add, git commit, git push in order to send the code from local machine to AWS or to your GitHub as well. Okay, so both ways it is possible. I mean, you can copy them, or you can clone the URL, or you can clone that repository from your remote location to here. Okay, whereas you can even push the code from your local machine back to your remote repository. Now, next, what is the difference between remote and local repository? So, team, just be aware. Okay, these are a couple of questions that these remote repository and local Git repository. Remote repository lives in, let us say, in GitHub, whereas local Git repository, it will live in your local machine. Okay, so it is just a copy of your remote repository. Okay, this is more of considered to be a distributed control. Okay, not a centralized one. There used to be centralized sort of mechanism earlier for these repositories, but now we make use of distributed, wherein you keep a remote repository and a local repository, so that in case a remote repository fails, you will have the option to sync it or recreate it from the local repository as well. Okay, now many questions are there. You see, I mean, you just need to get an eye on that, and you just have to get an understanding of that. And we cannot go into the very details of everything, but just be aware, okay, the kind of questions that you can expect. So you see, we'll just go a bit swifter now. Ansible kind of questions, you can see what is the difference between Ansible and other configuration tools like Chef and Puppet. Okay, so the way it is being used, just be aware of it, because you don't need to know it in detail, Chef and Puppet, but Ansible, I believe, is something that you should be entirely aware of. Chef and Puppet, if the job requirement has it, you should be aware of it as well. But at least be aware of the difference. Okay, for example, you see for Ansible, you don't have a master slave kind of architecture. Okay, the language which is being used, the Python is being used behind which. Okay, so you see the differences, the nuances between that, why I would go for Ansible and not the other configuration management. Okay, how does it work? Basic architecture of Ansible system. Okay, so the very basics of it, exactly how Ansible looks like, the architecture of it. Okay, that will give you, I mean, that architecture itself will make sure to give an idea, okay, that, okay, you know Ansible well. Okay, maybe in the form of the inventory that it carries, the modules, the API, the plugins, okay, the four important aspects of being on Ansible. Okay, as well the concept like playbook, which is there. Okay, so it is expected that you should be aware of it, because it is a very, very popular configuration management tool. And just try to understand, okay, team, what is configuration management at all is, you have thousands of servers in the world that we're living today. So you have to make sure that you be able to configure them efficiently. Okay, and in a very quick way, without any overhead. So there, these configuration management tools are paving in. Okay, and making their mark. Like I just mentioned, what is Ansible playbook? In fact, this is an important concept as well, because this is the concept through which you actually work with Ansible, right? In the playbook, you have plays being defined. Okay, maybe some sort of installation, maybe some sort of configurations you are doing. So when you run a playbook, actually the Ansible will carry out the configuration management. So please be aware of it. What exactly are these playbooks and how you can deal with it. Okay, again, just check the requirements as well. Okay, for your job, if it is mentioned that you should be aware of it, please get into details of it. But if it is in general kept over there, or if it is not mentioned as such, just get an overview at least about it. What is the role of Ansible? What is the role in Ansible? In fact, role is a concept entirely within Ansible. Okay, which deals with breaking your playbook. Okay, so again, we cannot go into very details of that, but again, just giving a nutshell, it will let you break your playbook into, let us say, multiple files as such. Okay, so big playbook. Okay, so it is a way how you can simplify your playbooks down there. Okay, and it will logically break them down. So again, just have a look at it just to get an idea of what exactly it is. Next comes what is Ansible inventory. Okay, so here actually you talk about the hosts. Okay, so host is like the nodes, right? I mean the nodes upon which the configuration management is to be carried out. Okay, so configuration management in the form of like commands, the modules, or the tasks what you want to carry out. So what are those nodes? So what are the hosts that, or the groups of the hosts we can say, or the managed nodes as we call it, to be technically correct. This is where that inventory gets into play. Just be aware of this concept as well. Now, next concept talks about the Ansible modules. So modules are more of you can think of them like the standalone scripts, or more of the scripts, or the block of scripts, as you can see, which you are using under the playbook. Okay, there are, I mean, there are around 12 odd types of these modules there. Okay, but just be aware. Okay, what I mean, at least you should be aware of these concepts at a high level if it is not required in depth. Okay, these modules and plugins and inventories and this, as I just mentioned, playbooks. Okay, they will be handy going in. Now, further, the next question is, what is the difference between the task and the handler? Again, this is more of a detailed question that you may get into. Okay, wherein while the task, if you see, individual task like they run it, handlers more of they run when you have notified them using the notified directory. So, I mean, there are some subtle differences between those. You can just have an exploration around that as well. Just giving you a hint about the kind of questions that you can expect. Okay, so it is, just be aware, okay, handlers, they kind of, we have to be notified with a notify directive. So that is the difference. Other than you can just be explore that more if you require. Docker and Kubernetes, again, very kind of popular tools out there, and very popular platforms, in fact, which are being used. What is the container? I hope you are aware of it. If not, please make yourself aware, because now we are living in the world of microservices team, and containers are big brand ambassadors of that, I'll tell you. So it is required that you should be aware of at least what containers are and how or why they are at all used. Docker images, again, one more concept in the line. It talks about the Docker or the container images. So there is a flow, you see, I'm sure you're aware of. Docker file creates a Docker image. Docker image creates the container. I mean, the running instance of which is called as a container. So Docker images, think of them like the read-only files or executables of your Docker file. Okay, Docker file is again a set of instructions to create a container. The raw material, you can think of it like that for the container, right? It has a specific format in which you write it, from which base OS or which base Docker image you are writing it, and all of that, the instructions and everything, they are mentioned. Okay, a Docker file creates a Docker image. A Docker image, when it runs, called as a container. Now, further, they can ask you a bit about what is Docker Compose. Okay, so it is a tool, more of, as you, I mean, I think you might be aware of. You may not get into this detail, but just be aware. It is a tool more of that helps you to define and share multi-container applications. Okay, so you can define that, you can design, or you can use that as a tool for defining and sharing the multi-container application. Just be aware of it. If you want to explore that more, just look at it further. What is the Docker command that lists the status of Docker container? So again, it's just one of the commands that they are talking about. But just be aware of the various common commands. It may be Docker run, it may be Docker tag. I mean, creating the Docker image and running the Docker, and kind of listing down the running containers. Okay, so different commands are there. Okay, if the company that you're going for, it is working with containers, you are bound to know these commands. Okay, It's not just about this one command. It should be about all the basic commands that will be required alongside. Docker Hub, again, a place where we keep our Docker images. Better to explore that by going onto a browser, create an account down there, see the various Docker images which are there. You can use them in your environments as well. You can use them on your local machine as well. Okay. You can configure your own Docker image and push it to Docker Hub as well if you want. Okay, your Docker desktop you get, or your own desktop if you want. And what are the features of Kubernetes? So Kubernetes, remember team, it is a container orchestration or container orchestration, in fact, tool as we call it. An open source tool I've already told you. It has something called as a control plane, data plane to deal with. So please see what exactly are the features of Kubernetes. How does it let you manage and control or orchestrate the containers from within? Okay, and what is this pod concept? What is this worker node concept? What is this node concept? In fact, what is this control plane concept? What is this data plane concept? You should be aware of this if your company, the organization is using Kubernetes, or if they are expecting Kubernetes to be aware for you with you. And node is Kubernetes. That is what I meant. Is what is the node in Kubernetes? You should be aware of that as well. What is a pod? What is a working node? Worker node? Isn't it? So these concepts you be please aware of, because again they will dig in detail of this if they are actually looking for a Kubernetes expert or someone who can work on Kubernetes. What is pod? I mean, again, in line with that only, you see pods, the more of a abstraction of your containers. Okay, you'll see. I mean, very details. I mean, there are entire details to that. But just be aware, okay, certain concepts that will help you understand it. DevOps jobs in the market. Now, just to give you a quick idea, team, yes, the DevOps market and the word of DevOps is extending, it is expanding exponentially. You see, I mean, over the years, it is going up. And obviously so, because you see every company, every organization is looking for setting up the pipelines and workflows, the software development life cycles in much more efficient way. And DevOps is the most efficient way for now. Okay, overcoming all the hurdles that we have faced until now. So yes, over the time you can see that the popularity and the acceptance of DevOps, okay, it has grown very much. Okay, and that is where it becomes important again to understand what are the skill sets and what are the services or what are more of a things that you should be aware of as a part of going for an interview like DevOps, and as a sort of attempting to go for DevOps. Okay, jobs in DevOps. I mean, I've just shown you just a minute back as well. Same thing, DevOps job in US. I mean, this is just a snippet of that. But similar sort of rules are there. If you just remember, I just showed you for AWS as well. Now, this is general DevOps in US. If you just check it, you have many roles out there, and you will see a lot of openings out there around it. And it is just a matter of curtailing to the exact understanding of what they are looking for. You can see not only for USA, you see, you can, I mean, if you search it by changing the location for United Kingdom as well, UK, hey, you will see the similar set of jobs which are extending day by day, and you'll see the companies are expecting, they are looking for a lot number of DevOps engineers than before. Okay, because this culture is very much popular right now. In fact, it is being adopted widely by everyone. In fact, I'll tell you, for recent many months, no, and years, I'll tell you, a couple of years. In fact, I have been dealing entirely with DevOps trainings and consulting and jobs and all of this, because the market is demanding this right now. Okay, so that is the reason why I feel it is a good time to enter here and explore, make sure that you get the best out of it. Okay, even you see in the recession that we are most of in, still the cloud jobs are not affected much. Okay, they are increasing, they are growing every day. Again, you see, same goes with the various cloud technologies. So this was more of general DevOps, but you see for AWS, like we saw earlier as well, the companies are looking for that. So it's from Canada, you see, and so if you see from UK and India. I mean, various countries, but ultimately every country is looking for the engineers. They are looking for more of the cloud sort of enthusiasts who can get in and start or put their efforts, put their creativity, put their knowledge to the use.
Hey, thank you so much for staying with us till the end of this video. I have something special to share. If you loved our content today, then you are absolutely going to adore what's coming next. We have a free class that's absolutely free, and the best part is it's available for everyone. This class goes in depth into the topics we touched on today, offering you detailed insights, comprehensive explanations, and even some exclusive content that wasn't covered in this video. All you have to do is just click on the link in the description below and you will be redirected to a page like this. Or if you are just starting from fresh, just type k2unacademy.com/devops02. Now all the information inside the class is listed here. You can check out the details of what we're going to cover in the session. Then via Learn DevOps, we have few certified trainees. Then we have a note from our very own Atul Kumar. Now for registering for the class, all you have to do is just select an event date, enter your name, your email, your phone number, and click yes, save my seat. You'll be redirected to a thank you page, and you can add this session to your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar. You can also save this link and you can join the webinar by clicking the link here. I promise this is something you don't want to miss, so go ahead, click on that link and step into a world where learning knows no boundaries. Till then, keep enjoying. I'll see you in the next video.